So Bones and I were talking about comic books. Bones loves comics. He loves all different kinds of comics, Marvel, DC, you name it, okay? And we started talking about the X-Men and mutants and whether it can happen. Can we grow wings and fly? Can we shoot lasers out of our eyes? Can we control the weather? That kind of stuff, sorry, not really. But mutations are a real thing. They can happen, okay? And there's some weird ones out there, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Gene mutation, okay, and something called genetic engineering, which we control, Bones. We control that one. Okay, so now, a mutation is a change in a gene that causes the appearance of a new trait. Okay, so what does that mean? That means something happens in your DNA. Okay, something happens in your DNA. It changes around the letters on your DNA, which causes different phenotypes to be expressed. Okay, now, most mutations occur naturally or spontaneously, and you don't even know that they happen. However, when they do happen, okay, if it is a more serious one, most mutations are harmful. Okay, most mutations are not good. Most mutations have some harmful effect on you in some way. Okay, now mutations not only can happen naturally, just out of nowhere. Okay, but there are sometimes environmental factors that can cause a mutation as well, such as being exposed to too much X-rays or too much radiation, which is why when you go to the dentist, when you do go to the dentist and you get X-rays, they put a big lead apron on you. Or if you break a bone and they have to do X-rays, the doctor always steps out of the room before he takes the X-ray or behind a protective barrier. That's to prevent them from getting too much exposure to environmental conditions that can cause a mutation. Okay, so most mutations are harmful, but there are some mutations in there that you never even know that they happened. Now, when you do get a good mutation that happens, that can aid in the process of evolution. So if a mutation happens that is a beneficial trait to you, then you're going to be able to reproduce a lot more and pass on that mutation to future generations. But again, most mutations are harmful. All right, so we can see here a duck with a couple extra legs, a monkey with one eyeball, a turtle with two heads. So mutations are a real thing. It's when there's a sudden change, either spontaneously or because of an environmental factor, that causes a change in your DNA and a new trait to be expressed. Okay? Now, that happens naturally. Us, as human beings, we've evolved and we've figured out something called genetic engineering. Okay? So now, genetic engineering is just engineering, or us going in and changing around the DNA on purpose. Okay? Now, there are benefits to this and there's disadvantages to this. So basically, one of the benefits is if we could find a way to cause plants, let's say a tomato plant, to be able to grow without using any water, then we can grow a lot more tomato plants wherever we want, and we can feed the world tomatoes. So what scientists have learned to be able to do is they go in and they can isolate a gene or a piece of DNA strand that we're discovering, and we're figuring out the codes for, we're cracking the codes, and we're changing around the DNA on purpose, okay, in order to get a desired effect, okay? So now there's great excitement about this because this means if we know that somebody is going to be born with some sort of birth defect or something like that, we could possibly go in and change around their DNA before they're born so they're not born with that birth defect. Okay, so it's a really exciting field of genetic engineering that's going on right now, which allows scientists to go in, read your DNA, change it around a little bit, and then come out with a desired effect. Even something as simple as, let's say you want to be born with blue eyes instead of brown eyes. Okay, if we could find that piece of DNA that codes for you to have brown eyes, change it around on purpose, you could be born with blue eyes. That's the beauty of genetic engineering. It does have benefits, it does have disadvantages, it has pros, it has cons, and that's up for you to decide. Okay, hope you enjoyed learning about mutations and genetic engineering.